Hi, everybody. I'm going to be doing a question and answer video series. So I'll be reading a question that somebody sent me and responding to it. And I look forward to hearing more of your questions. So the question is, hi there. I just listened to your podcast on emotional regulation. It was great. Thank you. I have a question though. Sometimes when my 3-year-old is having a really hard time, I struggle to get her to snap out of it, even enough to even look at me or take a deep breath. I try to encourage her to take deep breaths when she feels out of control in her emotions. Do you have any suggestions to help kids get centered enough to be able to allow their caregiver to help? So, this is such a great question, and I think it's one that I hear very often because there's so many different ways that kids can look when they're going through big emotions. So, the first thing I would say is to one, recognize that they're at a brain level, which is primitive and isn't ready to relate or engage or connect. So, even saying something like take a deep breath may be difficult for them in the moment. So, what we want to do is connect with the emotional or the nervous system, the body, physical states. However, I'm going to take some steps back and talk about everything we do in the moment, outside of the moment. So the first thing we would want to do is to set a foundation of connection outside of these tough, intense moments. So inside these tough, intense moments is a really difficult place to be working through emotion and developing that foundation of connection for the first time. So this isn't to say that if you're having a child with big emotions, you have a weak connection. That's not at all the case. Every child is super different and has different needs and different capacities in the moment, as do we. So if for both parties, if we can set a foundation of connection through interaction and meaningful routines and kind of filling up the routine with joy, that's a really good place to start. So number one would be to focus on outside of the moment, building connection through routines, through rituals, really boosting up the interaction. So whether that means it's 15 minutes of play a day, following the child's lead, doing what we call floor time. So you are not teaching or directing, you're really following the child's lead and seeing where their natural interest goes and really seeing them, if you will. So truly deeply seeing them and sharing their interests. So whatever they're interested in, we're sharing attention with that. So it's a powerful way to build emotional regulation without any of the big emotions. And we want to facilitate a space for them to feel safe. So as Dan Siegel's seen, safe, soothed, secure research shows is that when kids are feeling seen, safe, soothed, and secure, they feel organized and collected. So we're really setting up the stage for their regulation or for their emotional ability to calm outside of these intense moments. So we want the joy, we want the fun, we want the pleasure, and the connection is most important. So the relationship over everything else. So instead of thinking about having a compliant child, we're thinking about having a connected child. And the understanding there is that a connected child will lead to a child that wants to cooperate, not just comply, because it's what we tell them to. So the next would be to play emotional themes or body release games. So often kids have all these complex emotions that they're working on in their body, in their mind. There's a lot going on. So if we think about providing a space for them to release some of this emotion, whether that's rough and tumble play, whether that's a pillow fight, whether it is getting lots of physical activity in an interactive way. So the interaction, again, the relationship is really what sets the foundation for integrating the emotion, embodying the emotion, and giving a space for that sensational, emotional energy to dispel. So we want to have a safe space for them to do this. So number two would be play physical play or find what their body individually. So this is not advice for every single child. Unfortunately, there's not a handbook for that, which would be easy, but then would mean we wouldn't be humans with unique kind of bodies and minds and nervous systems. So we're all as unique as a fingerprint. So we're exploring what kids need for their body to be the most organized throughout their day, and we're giving them more of that or boosting more of that. So physical body is often a big way or kids with big emotions, there's a lot of sensation, a lot of emotion buildup in their body, like adults too. So we need to have a space that's safe and fun and can counter that. Number three would be to, well, actually, going back to number two a little bit, is to play emotional themes if the child is ready. So if they have a level of pretend play where they're really connecting around pretend play themes. So if they're, playing house or playing those routine ritual ideas, then bringing up emotion and play, kind of being pretend irritated or pretend competitive or pretend joyful even, or pretend silly or angry, or the list goes on. We want to have a space that they can play a wide range of emotion, because in the moment of kids having intense emotions in real life, we want to have them have built up this emotional muscle in play in a way that feels really safe and secure and not as intense as real life. So it's almost like they're practicing their emotional development through play. And then once they experience that in real life, it doesn't feel as big and disorganizing to the body, because they've played this emotion and play. So it still will feel uncomfortable. It still will be painful. We cannot strip that from the human experience by any means, but it's giving them an opportunity to explore those and play in an interactive way. And you're right there. So it's very safe, helps to boost that brain development in a way that will allow them to work through the emotions on their own in real life down the road. So number one, set the foundation of connection outside of the moment. Number two, play emotional themes and body themes to create a safe space for their emotional development. And number three is to read their cues and their triggers. So this may be something you would do. This is not a linear or a priority list by any means, because we want to get to know kids individually and become experts on what they're needing moment to moment. So preceding all of this is really understanding our own needs, because it's such a parallel process, and we can't be available for somebody else's needs and somebody else's emotions fully if we haven't been there for ours first. So if we do not know what we need, or we do not know what we are feeling moment to moment, then it will be harder to be fully present and embody these emotions for a child. So knowing our own triggers and knowing our own cues and going through this daily practice of imperfect moments that give us a lot of insight about who we are, what triggers us, and why. So exploring, doing a lot of that work to go through our own childhood or our own histories and recognize what was helpful, what wasn't helpful, and what triggers us moment to moment. So when we're triggered, we can recognize it is about us in some way. It's not about them. It's not about the environment. It's not about the situation as much as it's about us. That doesn't mean that the environment or others won't ever be responsible in some way, because that isn't true. However, it's saying that we are in charge of our emotions and we can explore. So it should be empowering versus invalidating is the goal there. So if we understand a child is triggered, for example, when they're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, these are four really basic characteristics that any humans will be depleted. So if their sensory cup and their emotional cup for processing or adapting to life's inevitable challenges or many transitions is low, then they will be more likely to be triggered. So what we want to do is, again, get to know their triggers, understand who they are at the core, the individual under the behavior, and get to know what their cues are and how to identify them, and then reduce the stress or the trigger or whatever it is. So we can adjust the environment. We can adjust our interaction, maybe be more patient in the moment, or provide more space, or use our voice and our face and our body to convey safety in a way that is helpful for them to get back to a more organized state. Or we can recognize that they, number four, may just need a release of emotion. So maybe this isn't related to the moment. Maybe what is going on is seemingly unrelated or disproportionate reaction to what happened. So if it seems like something little and they're having a big reaction and they're super upset by this and they seem inconsolable, then number 4 may be to allow space via presence. So to answer this question more exactly, the question uh, about how to get them to a level of comfort so the caregiver can help is all of these things. And then in the moment is to simply be present, be at their eye level or below. So again, it's all about safety and security and conveying that. And maybe you're just there saying, I know. You're laying down or kneeling down, low level, not threatening, just simply be present and hold space for them. If they're being unsafe in some way, so if they're running around or if their reaction is a flight response, then I would try to think about what emotions are coming from that. So if they're running around, for example, this happens a lot when getting ready to go in the morning. Uh, Everyone's ready to go and the child starts running around and throwing things or being silly or whatever it is. So it's a big indicator to us to think about what the root emotion could be. In this case, maybe it's fear and they're running away. And we can contain or make the space smaller. So either using our body and keeping them in one room or one area of the room in a way that's safe and just saying, I'm blocking off this way. It's my job to keep you safe. And just repeating that you're there for them with your body. So less language, not teaching, not directing, just using our brain or our regulation, our body, our mind, and our emotions to convey a sense of safe presence for them. So it's less about what we're saying, less about what we're doing, and more about how we are doing it, more about our tone. So our tone is super important. And if we have lots of kind of cloudy emotion going on with us, so if we're triggered in the moment, then it's likely that, which makes sense, if a child's this upset, it makes a lot of sense that we're triggered, but it makes it tougher to be there and be a present, safe person for the child because we're triggered. So if that means taking space for a minute to nurture yourself, whatever that means for you, take a breath and say you'll be right back, then hopefully you can have the power to do that in the moment. So it's a very loaded question and answer, and this is simplifying it, of course. But those are 4 things I would start with. So number 1, set the foundation of connection outside of the moment. 2, play emotional body themes to create a safe space for them to release and experience and embody emotion. 3, read the child's cues and triggers for everything from what lights them up to when they get stressed and why, and when they're starting to show signs of stress and what that may look like. How to reduce that stressor or that trigger and help them get back to an organized state and learn their body cues or learn their tolerance levels. 4 is to be present and hold space and simply be there for them using simple language, maybe nodding, saying, I know. We could go to sensory strategies to soothe. Maybe that'll be another video. So again, very simple answer to keep it brief today for this question. And I look forward to the next.